The bedroom clock reads 6:12 when the alarm vibrates silently on the nightstand, and the cell phone screen momentarily illuminates the perfectly taut sheet next to the imprint of an absent body. The empty bed is a discreet portrait of what remained. Evelyn Parker, 39 years old, interior designer, fair-skinned with brown hair in a bun that resisted sleep, observes her own reflection in the foggy window. Outside, the rain begins to draw lines as if sketching on the glass with a water pencil. Inside, the apartment in Hudson Yards smells of capsule coffee and nothing. The other side of the bed shows no signs of life, only the shadow of a suitcase that left too early. For a second, Evelyn rests her forehead against the cold glass, and her own breath returns as a mist that erases her image. She breathes again, hoping the vapor will dissolve before her courage does the same. The house feels like a gallery emptied of itself, surfaces she chose with precision, marble that doesn't remember hands, wood that doesn't creak, fabrics that don't ask for an embrace. A polite silence crosses the hallway, the closet door remains ajar, as if a distracted gesture could explain the absence. She prepares the coffee, the click of the machine is a small gunshot, and the bitter smell fills the kitchen with the efficiency of a fluorescent light. Sitting at the counter, Evelyn runs her fingers along the rim of the mug and tries to remember the last time she desired something she couldn't buy. The rain thickens, scoring the glass like sheet music, and the question returns like an uncomfortable echo: when did life become so functional that it ceased to be alive? In the bathroom mirror, one detail surprises her: a stray hair, a new wrinkle that scores the corner of her eye like a parenthesis. She adjusts her bun with the discipline of someone who knows how to tame other imperfections, but her own restlessness does not yield. In the bedroom, the impeccable sheet accuses her with its order. Evelyn puts on a gray wool jacket and a woody perfume that always calmed her in meetings. Today, the scent reminds her of cold hallways and achieved goals that hug no one. A stronger wind pushes the window forward a few millimeters, and the crack lets in a damp breath, an air current that raises goosebumps on her skin. She locks the latch, holds the doorknob for a second too long, and understands that what frightens her is not leaving, it is staying. The elevator descends like an irrefutable argument, and the building lobby returns the world in a wet shine. On the street, the smell of freshly washed asphalt mixes with that of pretzels from a stall that insists on operating, while cars pass, throwing up splashes that seem to shimmer under the white dawn light. Evelyn gets into her car with a decisive motion, starts the engine, and the radio, by some impolite coincidence, chooses a song with a female voice that seems to encourage farewells. The windshield wiper sweeps the water in a rhythm that dictates the pace of her breathing. She has no destination, she takes the avenue as one taking a shortcut inward, and the city falls behind, erased by the curtain of rain. On the road, the blurred lights of trucks function like invented constellations, and the car's cabin takes on the smell of heated leather and coffee spilled in a miscalculated sip. Evelyn, methodical, drives as one who projects space. She feels the curves with her body, measures distances with her gaze, and discovers, with some surprise, that freedom has a texture. It is a shiver that rises from the wrist to the shoulder. At a traffic light, she searches for inns in Cape May with the silent haste of someone who doesn't want to give fear time to say, "Go back home." She reserves a room for 2 days, and the confirmation email arrives with a "see you soon" that makes her smile in surprise. The traffic light turns green, and in the change of light, she realizes her own voice murmured an "I'm going," as one accepting a last-minute invitation. The car rental agency at the edge of the city is a neon aquarium, overly cold air conditioning, the smell of new plastic, the metallic sound of keys tapping quickly at the counter. Evelyn is there to sign a boring insurance policy when another woman's voice cuts through the environment, clear, slightly hoarse, a humor hidden even in annoyance. A discussion about a lost reservation unintentionally draws her in. Clara Hayes, 35, yes, it was confirmed last night. Evelyn looks up. The woman has light brown hair in untamable waves, bangs that insist on touching her eyebrows, blue eyes that seem to focus and defocus like a lens choosing the right light. She wears a yellow raincoat and carries a backpack with worn leather straps. On her skin, a few freckles survive the winter. The attendant asks for 1 minute that lasts many. Sorry, it's just that I have a job on the coast, says Clara, softer, as if also apologizing for her own nervousness. Evelyn watches the scene with an interest that has no name, notices Clara's hand drumming on the counter in an almost musical rhythm, and, before common sense intervenes, she speaks. I'm heading to Cape May. If you want a ride, I can drop you there. The attendant stops typing, Clara does too. For a moment, the rental agency smells of rain and plastic, but there is something lighter crossing the air, the kind of energy that appears when a coincidence presents itself and smiles. Clara measures the proposal with a look that assesses, yes, the risk, but, above all, the person. The smile comes first, shy and grateful. That would be amazing. I'm Clara, thank you. I promise not to talk the whole way. Or, I can talk, if you prefer noise. Evelyn, she replies, feeling her own voice warm as she says the name. And I like the right kind of noise. In the car, the lavender smell from Clara's backpack competes with Evelyn's woody perfume. The rain is finer now, a kind of veil that makes the landscape look like a painting. Clara adjusts her seatbelt and the radio finds a playlist of female voices and soft guitars. The window fogs slightly and Evelyn opens it a crack. The air arrives cold, salty, with the promise of the coast. Clara rests her forehead against the window for a moment and sighs, as if organizing inside her body the remnants of the morning. I'm a wedding photographer, she says, with a laugh that holds both weariness and brightness. Which is a funny paradox, given my recent divorce. Evelyn smiles slightly, accustomed to hearing confessions from strangers only in elevators and airports. I redesign houses that never seem made to be lived in. Paradox for paradox, we're even. The car turns onto the coastal road, to the right, leaden water, to the left, darkened pine trees. Clara talks with her hands, punctuating sentences with her fingers, and there is something sunny in the way she laughs, even when the subject is serious. Evelyn, who measures words as one adjusts a lampshade's light, finds herself talking about childhood, about paper houses made from market boxes, about a mother who catalogued books and taught her the sweet smell of old paper. Clara tells of a grandmother who said that photographing is saving the part of life that would have escaped. The music lowers by itself at a moment when both fall silent. The pause doesn't feel heavy, it rests. They stop at a roadside rest area. The smell of sweet gasoline, burnt coffee, and buttery cookies invades the warm air of the convenience store. Evelyn chooses 2 chocolate bars and 2 waters. Clara observes a row of maps as one collecting possibilities. At the checkout, crumpled bills change hands, and an unexpected ray of sunlight crosses the automatic door as the two return to the car. In the rearview mirror, for a second that seems longer, Evelyn meets Clara's blue eyes. The sensation is that of an adjusted focus, everything around loses clarity. She looks away first, as one caught off guard by her own hunger for something new. Back on the road, the wiper marks the tempo when, on the dashboard, an irrelevant warning light turns on. Farther ahead, the car gives a discreet jolt. They pull over onto the shoulder, and the smell of hot asphalt rises in invisible waves. The left rear tire looks tired. Evelyn, methodical, opens the trunk firmly, finds the jack and the lug wrench. Clara holds the cell phone flashlight. The cold light outlines the metal, the grease, the knuckles. "You really know what you're doing?" she asks, admiringly, and the compliment comes out simple, without exaggeration. "I learned to change settings," says Evelyn, half laughing. Tires came in the package. Evelyn's hands, with short, clean nails, turn the wrench. Clara tilts the flashlight and, unintentionally, touches the wool sleeve of the gray jacket. The touch is minimal, almost nothing, but it is enough for a sudden warmth to run beneath the fabric. Both laugh nervously, as one stumbling over a word. The new wheel is in place when the wind changes and brings a breath of sea air, even so far from the ocean. "I think the coast is calling," says Clara, and the phrase hangs in the air at seatbelt height. Upon arriving at the red-roofed inn in Cape May, the lobby smells of waxed wood and freshly baked cinnamon cookies. The proprietor speaks softly so as not to disturb the sound of rain on the eaves. Overbooking, she sighs, adjusting her glasses on her nose. I have one room. Just one. Clara's expression seeks Evelyn's with a discreet request for an opinion. Evelyn notices her heart changes pace, not from fear, but from the awareness of new territory. We can share, she says, diplomatically, and the phrase falls onto the soft carpet like a secret no one intends to spread. Clara smiles, and the smile holds the tenderness of someone who knows how to give thanks without words. The room is spacious, light walls, a sash window through which the damp afternoon light enters. The air smells of hotel soap and ironed sheets. The bed, too large for two strangers, is a landscape they both navigate carefully. Clara leaves her backpack near the armchair. Evelyn places her jacket on the back of the chair. Can I have the side by the window? Asks Clara, her voice carrying a shy intimacy. Of course, replies Evelyn, opening the curtain just enough to hear the murmur of the sea. They go down to the lobby with mugs of mint tea. The rain falls diagonally, the glass door designs rivers. On the shared table, a guest book with hurried handwriting speaks of birthdays, reconciliations, promises to return. Clara runs her finger along the notebook spine as one reading Braille. Evelyn observes the delicacy of the gesture and, for the first time, thinks of the word sweet for someone she didn't know hours before. Thank you for the ride, says Clara, looking at the steam rising from the mug. And for. She doesn't finish. Evelyn understands, because gratitude sometimes doesn't need a direct object. You're welcome, she replies, and the welcome sounds fuller than grammar would suggest. Back in the room, night falls early. A fabric lamp creates a warm island on the nightstand. Outside, the sea beats with cadence, and the air has the temperature of a hug about to happen. Clara adjusts her bangs, picks up a book and pretends to read. Evelyn pretends to organize emails as if the world demanded answers at 9 p.m. Both know the theater is transparent, and this, paradoxically, calms them. On the nightstand, an arrangement of hydrangeas still holds tiny raindrops. The flower has the exact tone between blue and lilac, like Clara's eyes when the light changes. Evelyn realizes she is mentally describing someone's eye color and smiles to herself at her own novelty. If you want, I can show you Cape May tomorrow, says Clara, without taking her eyes off the page. The spots that don't make it onto postcards. I would love that, replies Evelyn, and the word love warms the air like when a kettle sighs before boiling. The following silence isn't heavy, the sea fills the spaces between unspoken letters. Evelyn turns off the lamp, the penumbra becomes a lens that reduces the world to the edges of the bed and the synchronized breathing of those who don't yet know how to name companionship. In the bluish darkness, a distant thunder draws a line in time. Clara turns towards the window. Evelyn, without thinking, follows with her gaze the shadow of her profile, the curve of her nose, her relaxed mouth. The wind enters through a crack that was left, by carelessness, open. The curtain lifts a corner as if calling someone to dance. Evelyn gets up to close it, walks slowly, the cold floor waking the soles of her feet. Passing the armchair, the sleeve of her sweater lightly brushes the back of Clara's hand on the sheet. It's almost nothing, it's almost a lot. Clara opens her eyes in the dim light and holds her breath for a second. Evelyn. She begins, in a low voice of someone who doesn't want to scare a skittish animal. Evelyn smiles back, her hand inches from the window, the wind still blowing, the curtain inviting, and a phrase is born whole in her mouth before choosing whether it should exist aloud. The day begins with the smell of freshly baked bread and rain evaporating from the eaves. The inn serves coffee in thick cups, and the lobby feels like a borrowed living room, with an old record player emitting soft jazz. Clara arrives first, hair still damp, raincoat hanging on her arm like a wing. Evelyn finds her by the window. The side light makes Clara's blue eyes change tone, a transit between pencil lilac and end of winter sea. The table has real butter, raspberry jam, and scrambled eggs that smell like a grandmother's house. They laugh at nothing, or at everything, and the conversation settles with the naturalness of a linen towel touching their wrists. "Do you always wake up early?" asks Clara, blowing the steam from her coffee as one testing time. "I used to," says Evelyn, tearing the bread with almost professional care. "Today was curiosity." "Curiosity is my favorite alarm clock," replies Clara, and the smile stays on the rim of the cup, waiting for another to complete it. They talk about how the night's rain thinned the sound of the sea, how the wooden stair creaks in different ways depending on who climbs it, how certain inns seem to hug the guest by their smell. Evelyn describes textures as one touching with her eyes, Clara describes light as one storing it in invisible vials. Between sips, they discover coincidences. They both collect old mugs, they both hate cold light in the bathroom, they have both moved furniture in hotel rooms to sleep better. They laugh when they notice the identical gesture, the index finger circling the rim of the mug, and complicity ignites in the small mirror of a habit. Outside, the morning opens into a luminous gray. The streets of Cape May smell of salt and fresh paint, the Victorian roofs smile with colored cheeks, and the wind changes tone when it turns the corner by the sea. Clara suggests a walk to the beach. She carries her camera hanging from her neck, Evelyn shoves her hands into her coat pockets, and the wet gravel crunches softly under their soles. On the boardwalk, the sound of seagulls cuts the air like lines drawn with a ruler. Clara walks a step ahead, turns suddenly, walks backward and points the camera at Evelyn. "May I?" she asks, but the click is already born from impulse. "Only if I can approve it first," Evelyn retorts, feigning seriousness. Clara shows the viewfinder. Evelyn sees herself in the frame, hair tied up, face clean of makeup, a smile almost visible. She stays silent a second longer than usual. It's not vanity, it's surprise. "You see me differently than I describe myself," she admits, softly. "Photography is just the excuse I use to prove that," replies Clara, settling the strap on her shoulder. The wind brings a taste of iron and salt. Evelyn adjusts her scarf, and the end of the fabric brushes Clara's hand, neither body pulls away. Midway, the obstacle appears with the naturalness of the tides. Clara's phone vibrates, a message from the producer of a wedding in Wildwood, 20 minutes away. The schedule was moved up because of the weather, she needs to be on site at 3, not 5. Clara sighs, the cold making two dimples appear on her face. "I have a job today," it started as a maybe, turned into a definitely. "I'll be gone all afternoon," she explains, weighing her words so as not to apologize for having a life. "Then we have the morning," says Evelyn, with a tranquility that doesn't hide the small disappointment that warms her. "Show me those spots that didn't become postcards." They climb the dune via a plank path that slightly scratches the soles of their shoes. Clara points to a crooked fence where seaweed is trapped like ribbons. Evelyn speaks of the beauty of true imperfections. On the deck, the wind pushes loose strands of Clara's bangs. Evelyn, without thinking, reaches out and fixes the disarray with delicacy. Her fingers don't touch the skin, but the gesture shortens a distance that yesterday seemed too polished. "Thank you," says Clara, in a tone worth more than the word. Back at the inn, they decide to prepare something simple in the shared kitchen. The proprietor lends an apron to each. They smell of coconut soap and pennyroyal. Evelyn cuts tomatoes with the precision of someone hanging pictures on a wall. Clara tears basil leaves with the haste of hunger. Their hands cross the same path over the cutting board. Evelyn offers salt, Clara returns with pepper. The olive oil falls thick, golden, spreading a scent that fights amicably with the bread in the oven. "We could open a bistro," Clara invents, laughing. "I take care of the light, you take care of the texture." "And who takes care of the chaos?" Evelyn asks, and she isn't talking about the kitchen. Their laughter marks a comfortable rhythm, the kind that makes you want to learn a dance. The bad news arrives while the bruschetta browns. The innkeeper, embarrassed, informs that the previous night's overbooking has unfolded. A large group that was supposed to leave decided to extend their stay. Tomorrow, very early, they need to vacate the room. There is kindness in the request, but the fact is concrete like a key in hand. Evelyn might have to return to New York sooner than she wanted. Clara has accommodation guaranteed due to her work, but in another city. The air deflates, the smell of bread seems to retreat. Evelyn takes a deep breath, does the short math of possibilities and smiles without drama, like someone who learned to manage unforeseen events with gloves. It's okay, she says. We still have today. They eat in the covered patio, facing hydrangeas that held droplets of the drizzle like cold pearls. The bread crackles, the tomato's acidity makes way for the olive oil, the basil leaves a green trail in the mouth. Clara watches Evelyn taste her own seasoning as one watching someone settle into the right chair after years of hard benches. You cook like you design, she comments. In a way that makes you want to live inside. And you talk like you photograph, replies Evelyn. Illuminating what would have stayed dark. When Clara needs to get ready for the wedding, their hands say goodbye in a simple way, a quick touch on the forearms, skin against wool, that lasts half a second longer than etiquette would recommend. In the hallway, the old chandelier reflects the scene multiplied in crystals. Shall I drop you off and pick you up later, offers Evelyn, not disguising her desire to stretch the day. I'll be back late, it will be tiring, says Clara, tying her hair into a high bun and securing strands with clips that shine like pins. But if you don't mind the time. I don't mind anything that has to do with the two of us, slips out, and Evelyn notices the phrase in the air, whole, before she can edit it. Clara holds the smile between her lips, like someone keeping a lit match under the rain. The event hall in Wildwood smells of a florist and air conditioning. The band does the sound check and the drumbeat throbs in the chest like an impatient heart. Evelyn watches from afar, observing Clara work. The photographer changes position with the agility of one who has learned to predict tears and laughter. She leans back, crouches, climbs on a stool, talks to the bridesmaids with a magical gesture. The twilight light crosses the curtain and lands on Clara with the precision of a blessing. Evelyn, without intending to poeticize, thinks only, it's beautiful to see someone in the right place. Her phone vibrates in her pocket, Mark. She ignores it the first time, answers the second. His voice is a fine snow, without noise. I'm back tomorrow, he informs, doesn't ask where she is. The call ends, and the room seems louder than before. Evelyn focuses again on Clara, her vision settles. The wedding stretches on, laughter, toasts, a groomsman who is too exaggerated, a grandmother who dances better than the grandchildren. Upon leaving, the smell of cake and hairspray is left behind, and the outside air has a salty taste that cleanses the tongue. It is almost midnight when Clara appears at the door, exhausted and bright, her shoulders asking for a massage, her hands still holding the invisible weight of the camera. Evelyn opens the car, the upholstery returns the accumulated heat of the day, the radio refuses to play anything but an old ballad. How was it? She asks, offering a bottle of cold water. It was up forever, with good photographers, replies Clara, laughing at herself. And you? I discovered I like watching you work, says Evelyn, simply. It seems like the world becomes sharper. Driving back to Cape May, the road is a silent ribbon. The lighthouse, in the distance, turns on and off in a rhythm that seems like a promise in code. On the seat, their hands rest near each other, enough for the electricity to do its discreet work. When they enter the room, the smell of clean sheets has renewed the night. The window, this time, is closed. They move like those who have learned the choreography of a place. Clara hangs her jacket, Evelyn arranges the book on the nightstand, the lamp forms a warm island. The conversation grows quieter, as if respecting something that grows without needing an announcement. Early tomorrow I have to go to Atlantic City, says Clara, fiddling with her wristwatch. The producer got a room for me there. And you, the innkeeper. I know, replies Evelyn, without tragedy. I'll see if I can find another vacancy or go back to New York. The word back opens a small void between them, which isn't exactly pain, it is care. Evelyn takes one step closer, then another, like one testing a newly installed floor. She is close enough to see the freckles on the bridge of Clara's nose, to hear the breath that draws very small circles in the air. The silence fills with good things. Clara lifts her face, her eyes question and welcome at the same time. Evelyn touches the fabric of the yellow coat, just the fabric, and moves aside a strand of bangs that insisted on falling again. If I leave tomorrow, it will feel like I made all this up, she says, in a whisper that doesn't want to wake anything beyond the necessary. We didn't make it up, replies Clara, taking half a step closer, the shadow of a smile touching the corner of her mouth. We just found it. And encounters deserve time. The almost kiss is born in a tilting of faces, an exact geometry of trajectories that recognize each other. Their mouths are a breath apart when the hallway floorboard creaks and the proprietor knocks lightly, gently, to announce the central heating will be turned off in 10 minutes. They both laugh softly, like accomplices caught by an unforeseen event that protects them from haste. The moment folds delicately, kept whole. Clara retreats a centimeter that isn't a retreat, it's a promise. Tomorrow, before I go, I'll take you to the lighthouse, she says, with the certainty of one offering a place for a phrase that didn't fit today. The light there makes everything seem like an answer. Evelyn nods, her heart accepting a kind of silent contract. Then tomorrow, she confirms, and the word hangs suspended like a ribbon caught in the breeze, pointing to a beginning that stretches a little beyond sleep. The lamp turns off. In the dark, their breathing finds a common rhythm, and the window holds the lighthouse blinking in the distance, as if marking the exact time of something that hasn't happened yet, and which, for that very reason, seems inevitable. Dawn arrives damp, with the smell of wet wood crossing the window crack. Evelyn wakes before the clock and spends a few seconds composing the landscape with her senses, the mattress giving softly under her body, the whisper of the sea in the background, the cold air brushing the skin of her face, and, 2 steps away, the soft sound of Clara's breathing, who sleeps facing the window as one not wanting to miss the first light. When Clara opens her eyes, the room has gained a milky clarity. They exchange a good morning that doesn't carry habit, it carries care. Clara's voice has a morning velvet, Evelyn's, still low, carries the hint of a smile that didn't exist yesterday. They go down to the shared kitchen in socks, bare feet on the cold tile. The kettle hisses a whisper of haste, the coffee, ground fresh, perfumes the air with promise. A bowl with blueberries, slices of bread, a pot of butter that yields easily to the touch of the knife. They prepare breakfast without much conversation, like partners in a dance they discovered yesterday. Can you pass me the honey? Asks Clara, and the glass taps lightly on the counter, leaving a sticky ring that Evelyn cleans with an almost affectionate gesture. Thank you, says Clara, and the thanks hangs in the air like steam. When the butter touches the warm bread, the smell fills the kitchen of a house that, for an hour, seems to have been built for them. The lighthouse before the world begins? Asks Clara, pointing her chin towards the window. Outside, the fine rain threatens but doesn't decide to come. Evelyn puts on her jacket, reaches for Clara's scarf and wraps it gently around her neck, adjusting the fabric over her collarbone without touching the skin. Their eyes meet too closely, for long enough that the silence says, I am comfortable, and I can step back if you want. Clara holds her breath for a short moment, long enough to agree with her eyes. They walk to the lighthouse on a planked path that creaks like an instrument tuning. The wind brings salt and a cold shape to wake cheeks. The sand, still dark from the recently departed night, holds the mark of a dog that passed by early. The seagulls score the sky like brief notes. The lighthouse breathes, turns on and off, the light cutting through the fog with the discipline of a metronome. It always calms me, says Clara, tightening the scarf under her chin. That stubborn repetition, almost a stubbornness to exist. It seems like the perfect architecture, returns Evelyn, looking at the iron spiral from within. A body that knows exactly where it's going. Clara smiles, and the smile bites her lips slightly, not from nervousness, from restraint. The rain decides to fall in fine drops, a transparent lace. They open an umbrella that forces them into proximity, their shoulders lean together on purpose, not by accident. The smell of Evelyn's woody perfume mixes with Clara's discreet lavender, and the wet fabric of the umbrella returns an odor of cold canvas that accentuates the warmth of their hands in their pockets. The lighthouse allows them to ascend, and, step by step, the spiral makes their breathing heard in small echoes. The metal handrail is cold like an old advice, their palms learn the touch and accept it. At the top, the wind opens the view and narrows the intimacy. The city looks like a miniature, the sea line, a signature. Clara takes out her camera and, before pointing it at anything, asks with her eyes. Evelyn nods. The photos are born without effort, a profile of Evelyn looking at the horizon, loose strands of hair playing with the wind, their hands resting on the ledge, a ring returning a brief shine, the line of the scarf outlining her neck. With each click, Clara takes half a step closer, and the distance shrinks with the naturalness of things finding their measure. "May I adjust your hair?" asks Clara, her voice closer than would be prudent. Evelyn tilts her head, offering the gesture. Clara's fingers barely touch. Still, a warm current runs over her scalp, down her neck, settles on her shoulders. Evelyn closes her eyes for a second, then laughs at herself, softly, and opens them. "It's fine," she says, but no one is talking about hair. The wind carries the phrase to the edge of the sea. They descend, and the path leads them back to the world's level. The rain thickens, and running under the umbrella creates a joy of postponed childhood. Boots splash, laughter escapes, and their coats hold the good temperature of being close. In the inn, the hall smells of lemon balm, and a fluffy towel waits on the back of a chair. Evelyn hands a towel to Clara, who dries her bangs with both hands, unashamed of being disheveled. "You look beautiful like that," says Evelyn, so sincere it seems like neutral information. Clara lowers her face for a moment, like when someone receives a flower without a vase. The hours run in small tasks that demand body coordination. They pack Evelyn's bags, change the sheet to make life easier for the proprietor, fold t-shirts with the cadence of those who learn to be together without demanding conversation. In the middle, the message, Clara's producer asks her to arrive in Atlantic City earlier to photograph a preliminary meeting. The clock is in a hurry. The obstacle becomes clear, not as a wall, but as a traffic light. Evelyn breathes and says, "It's okay," with a tone that doesn't say, "whatever." Clara presses her lips into a smile that apologizes and offers a solution. "I'll drop you at the station, you see if there's another vacancy or go back to New York. And, we'll talk." Before leaving, they prepare an improvised lunch with what was left: short pasta, garlic, olive oil, lemon zest, grated cheese. The pot emits an aroma that lives between comfort and home. The steam rises and fogs Evelyn's glasses, who laughs when Clara cleans them with the hem of her own sweater. "I should be the one taking care of that," complains Evelyn, amused. "Today, I'm taking care," says Clara, with that resolute way of someone who knows how to find light in a dark room. They eat standing, leaning against the counter, spoons scraping the bottom of the pot, the lemon igniting the tongue, the cheese sticking to the wooden spoon. Proximity settles in the hip, the shoulder, the breath one releases when the other tells a story. In the farewell to the room, a last sweep of the eyes, the jet of light where their bags rested, the brief imprint on the pillow, the arrangement of hydrangeas surviving bravely. Their hands meet without planning on the doorknob, neither finger retreats, but neither squeezes. It is enough to inaugurate a thick silence. "Let's go," says Clara, and the verb doesn't hurt. The car has the right warmth, the radio finds an old song that talks of returns and maps. The road to the station is short enough to force a summary. Evelyn watches the landscape parade between poles. Clara, from time to time, checks the rearview mirror more than necessary. "I didn't want it to be so soon," admits Clara, her eyes going back and forth to the road. Me neither, says Evelyn, and they both smile at the shared obviousness. At the station, the smell of iron and oil reminds of departures. The loudspeaker announces schedules in mashed-up English. A newspaper vendor shouts headlines no one hears. The platform is a porch where time holds its breath for a few minutes. Evelyn buys 2 bottles of water as a pure gesture. Clara adjusts the camera strap on her shoulder and, unintentionally, lets a hair clip escape that falls like a metallic little fish. Evelyn bends down to pick it up, and, standing up, is too close. Close enough to see the small points of light in the green of her blue eyes. Close enough to feel the air Clara draws before saying anything. If I come closer, will you step back, asks Evelyn, so softly the train noise almost carries the phrase away. Clara hesitates, the exact size of a yes that doesn't want to hurt and a no that doesn't want to rush. Her head shakes slightly, but her hands remain in view, away from her pockets, as one saying, nothing here is force. It is the kind of consent that lives in millimeters, the body asking for the other's care. Evelyn takes half a step, and the world narrows to a point. The smell of Clara's skin is a mixture of lavender, rain, and something warm that has no name. The kiss happens as if someone blew out a candle and, instead of extinguishing, the fire opened its eyes, brief, delicate, a touching of mouths that barely weighs, a landing that investigates the temperature of possibility. There is no haste, there is an agreement. If you pull away, I stop. If you stay, I stay. Clara doesn't pull away. 1 second, another. A sigh that rests on the chin. The kiss ended as it began, lightly, and left behind a vibration that insisted on lingering, like the warmth that remains in the place where the sun had been. They remained with their foreheads almost touching, eyes closed for half a time. Evelyn was the first to open hers, because she had always been the one to check if the light was right. Clara kept her eyes closed for a moment longer, perhaps to store inside what had happened. When she opened them, she smiled a small smile, and, at the same time, her eyes shone with a good kind of shock. She began, and laughed, not at herself, but at the impossibility of it all fitting. Me too, Evelyn completed, without needing the sentence to exist in full. The loudspeaker announced the train's approach with a long whistle. The world, which had left the two of them alone as a courtesy, returned in a hurry, people passing, coats brushing, the warm wind from under the platform. Euphoria gave way to an old fear in Evelyn, the kind that learns to walk in high heels. And now, came like an anxious child, and, in the same breath, a quiet calm of someone who had finally recognized her own face in the water. In Clara, a light joy and a shadow, the life organized by contracts, schedules, waiting clients, the desire to stretch the morning like the elastic of a coat that is too large. I don't know the protocol, Clara confessed, her voice thin with laughter. I was never good with protocols. Maybe we invent one, replied Evelyn, biting the corner of her smile. Let's proceed with gentleness. With truth. The train stopped with a sigh from a tired machine. The concrete obstacle bumped against the edge of the moment. They hugged quickly, their coats creaking against each other, the smell of lavender and wood combining into an instant memory. The hug lasted longer than the rules dictated, it ended before it could become an excuse. Call me when you arrive, asked Clara. I'll send you the lighthouse photo, promised Evelyn, and something in the phrase tried not to say, come back. The door closed, the train pulled away, Clara remained on the platform, small among the hurried people. Evelyn chose a seat by the window, the palm of her hand against the cold glass. As the landscape began to slide by, her heart ran two rhythms, one confused and one happy. The kiss, still a warm point on her mouth, pulsed as if it had stored a word. And, suddenly, the fear appeared from the side, not as punishment, but as an antibody. What to do with Mark, with New York, with everything that had chosen her before she chose herself. She saw herself reflected in the train's transparent window, two Evelyns superimposed, the one who was leaving and the one who almost got off again. The phone vibrated in her pocket. A message from Clara: "Message me when you're settled." And, "Breathe." Evelyn laughed alone. A light tear traveled her eyelashes and dried from the wind coming through a poorly closed window in the carriage. She replied, breathing, and the word, so simple, seemed like the signature of an invisible agreement. When the train crossed the bridge, the water below reflected a pale sky trying to be blue. Evelyn closed her eyes and let her body memorize the kiss in the right order, first the contained approach, then the light touch, then the pause that asked, "May I?" and, finally, the small distance that held a promise. She opened her eyes with the feeling of someone who has entered a house and doesn't turn on all the lights, so as not to startle. Still, the consequence settled in with the shamelessness of true things. She needed time. Perhaps space. Perhaps courage. The city, when it appeared, returned the noise and the discipline. Evelyn got off at Penn Station with a suitcase that was too light, took the subway with trained automaticity. The fabric of the kiss remained, but now it sewed together a thread of doubt. Arriving at the apartment, the smell of cleaning and air conditioning greeted her as always. This time, the air seemed colder. She would drop the suitcase, turn on a yellow light, make tea as one inventing a routine so as not to flee. She would look at her own reflection once more, as in the beginning, and notice that color had gradually returned to her face, but also that her mind had run ahead of her body. She would send a short message, because long words sometimes break. "I arrived. Thank you for today." Clara's reply would come, almost immediate, "Thank you for existing today." Evelyn would smile and, in the same movement, rest her forehead against the window. Between the kiss and the life that needed to be rearranged, she would choose, for now, the minimal distance that allows understanding. In the dark of the apartment, the city pulsed outside as the lighthouse had done at the height of the day. The repetition of the glow, turning on and off, would say that it is possible to get through the night without getting lost, but, first, perhaps it was necessary to hide a little. Evelyn would close the curtains, leave her phone face down, and the silence would cover the sofa like a blanket. On the other side of the bridge, Clara would look at a recently taken photo and keep it in her coat pocket. The two would sleep with the question without a period, "What if?" which is the kind of question one doesn't answer on a day of travel. And, for now, that question was enough to separate them, and to keep them, in some way, side by side. The rain had returned to New York with the same sound as the day Evelyn left Cape May, fine drops that seemed to drum secrets onto the windowsill. She watched the Hudson from her office window, the city's reflection blurred by the water. It had been a week since the kiss, and the entire world seemed to revolve to the cadence of that instant. Every project, every meeting, every voice on the phone carried a dissonant note, a reminder that something inside her had changed its tone. Mark had noticed the different silence. He didn't ask anything immediately, he just started arriving home earlier, pouring 2 glasses of wine, commenting on trivialities with the hope that life would return to resembling itself. Evelyn replied in the same language of politeness, "Yes, of course, maybe," but the words sounded like smooth stones. The apartment had regained the smell of expensive candles and reheated food, but nothing of the previous burning. That night, while Mark talked about a new investment, her phone vibrated on the table. A short message, arrived safely in Atlantic City. "The sea here is a different color." "Sea?" Evelyn fixed her gaze on the final letter, small and firm. Her heart responded with a childish impulse, the kind that reminds you of the first time you ran without looking back. She put the phone under her napkin, the gesture too quick to be natural. "Is everything all right?" Mark asked, without raising his head much. "Yes. Just the office." He nodded, accepting the answer as one accepts a diagnosis. Days later, chance or destiny decided to interfere. An architecture magazine called inviting Evelyn to design the interior of a new creative co-working space in Brooklyn. The client was a local photographer, Clara Hayes, the email informed. Evelyn read it 3 times, her stomach tightening as if someone had turned an invisible screw. The universe, it seemed, was determined not to let her escape. The reunion happened on a windy afternoon, in a renovated old warehouse with iron windows and peeling walls. Clara was there, in jeans and a white blouse, her hair tied up carelessly and the same smile Evelyn had learned to decipher. The smell of fresh paint and ground coffee mixed with the lavender that Clara carried with her. "I swear it wasn't planned," Clara said, laughing, as she offered her hand. "But I'm glad you came." Evelyn shook her hand out of reflex. The touch was brief, electric, but polite. "Me too," she replied, feeling her body lie by half. They worked side by side for hours, choosing textures, photographs for the walls, fabrics for curtains. Time slid between practical conversations and silences full of memories. Sometimes, when Clara approached to show a sketch, Evelyn noticed her perfume before the image. When Evelyn stretched the measuring tape, Clara held the other end with a care that seemed a gesture of trust, not of work. "I like this," Clara said, pointing to a wood panel. "It has something of a shelter." "Shelter is always good," murmured Evelyn. "Especially when we don't know where the wind is coming from." Clara looked at her sideways, her gaze calm, but deep enough to displace the air between them. "Sometimes the wind comes from within, Evelyn." Her name said like that, in full, returned an intimacy to the room that no project could justify. In the following days, the professional routine became a pretext for something they both tried to call friendship. They worked, had lunch, exchanged messages. Evelyn spent nights looking at her phone, her thumb hovering over a never-sent phrase. Guilt mixed with desire like waves breaking over the same rock. Mark noticed the distance, the silences, once merely empty, now had sharp edges. One night, arriving home, Evelyn found Mark sitting in the living room, his laptop open on a page of photos from Cape May. The screen showed a sandbar, a yellow umbrella, a face partially covered by shadow. Her heart almost stopped. "I was looking for a place for us to spend the weekend," he said, turning the screen. "And I found this. Don't you think it's beautiful?" Evelyn sat down slowly, her body on alert. Mark's gaze lingered too long on her face, as if seeking some hidden answer. "Yes," she said, in a thread of a voice. "Beautiful." He closed the laptop with a dry click. "You've been different, Evelyn." "Maybe I'm just tired," she replied. The silence that followed was as heavy as the rain outside. The next day, Evelyn went to Clara's studio. The place was plunged in a golden penumbra, the sound of rain on the roof created a tranquil rhythm. Clara was developing photos on the light table. In the reflection of the glass, Evelyn saw herself more alive than in the past weeks. Clara's hands were stained with ink, her eyes, attentive. "Are you okay?" Clara asked, not disguising her concern. "I don't know," Evelyn replied. "I try to be who I was, but it's like trying to return to a house that no longer exists." Clara was silent for a few seconds, then turned off the light table. The room plunged into a soft gray, cut by the sound of water. "Sometimes, Evelyn, what we call life is just the fear of living another." Evelyn smiled sadly. "And you're not afraid?" "I am," said Clara. "But I keep going." They stood side by side, the sound of the rain marking time. Evelyn felt the warmth of Clara's body a few inches away, the same warmth that had made her breathe differently at the station. The dilemma corroded her, the guilt over an improbable love and the pain of pretending nothing had happened. When Clara touched her arm, lightly, a touch from someone who only wanted to offer presence, Evelyn closed her eyes, as if the gesture were a shelter. "If I said I think about you," Clara began, her voice choked, "does that complicate things?" Evelyn opened her eyes. "It's already complicated." Clara gave a half-smile. "Then, at least it's true." The silence between them filled with held breath. Evelyn took a step forward, Clara did not retreat. Their eyes met, and something inside Evelyn yielded. It wasn't unbridled passion, it was acceptance. But before she could say anything, her phone vibrated. "Mark, we need to talk today." The screen illuminated Evelyn's face, and the beam of light revealed the exact moment courage hesitated. "I need to go," she said, her voice trembling. "Of course," Clara replied, without surprise. "Sometimes, leaving is the only way to stay a little longer." Evelyn turned toward the door, the sound of the rain growing behind her. She stopped, a hand on the doorknob, and took a deep breath. "Clara," she said, without looking back. "If I call, someday." "I'll answer," Clara replied, with serenity. Outside, the city pulsed with lights and horns, but inside Evelyn there was only the sound of water hitting the rooftops, like an indecisive heart, trying to choose the right rhythm. In the car, she typed a short message, "I need time." She stared at the screen for long seconds, her thumb suspended. Then, she erased it all. The traffic light changed color. The rain started again, insistent, washing the windows. Evelyn rested her head on the steering wheel, her face illuminated by the reflected lights. Her phone vibrated again, a professional email notification, cold and impersonal. She set it aside, started the engine, and breathed. Clara's door, back there, remained slightly ajar, a rectangle of yellowish light in the rain. The decision was almost made, but not yet. The morning was born with the same fine rain of weeks past, and the clock stubbornly read 6:12 when the alarm vibrated silently on the nightstand. Evelyn remained lying down for a moment, listening to the ping of drops on the windowsill as one waiting for her own breath to find its rhythm. On the windowpane, the same pattern of water veins; in the air, the same woody perfume that once calmed her and, lately, only reminded her of cold hallways. She got up with a care that was not fear, it was respect for an ending that had already happened inside. In the kitchen, she prepared 2 cups and served coffee even before being sure Mark would accept it. The smell filled the apartment with a simple honesty that hadn't frequented the place for a long time. "I woke up with the rain," he said, entering with the soft steps of one who fears awakening what they don't want to name. Evelyn pushed the cup toward him, held her own with both hands to steal warmth and chose phrases as one aligning pictures on a wall, one at a time, without twisting the level of truth. "I don't know how to keep pretending everything is the same," she said, her voice low but firm. "There's no one to blame here. There are years of silence. And now, there's something else inside me asking for space." Mark took a sip, looked at the window as if expecting an answer from the sky, and sighed. "I noticed," he admitted, a sad smile giving way at the corner. "I noticed in the way you breathe when you think about leaving. Before, you stifled it. Now, it seems you've learned to breathe again." The dialogue proceeded in fits and starts, but it proceeded. He asked little, she answered only what was necessary. There were pauses longer than any explanation, and it was in them that the decision settled with the dignity of a piece that fits. When the rain thickened and the city became blurred, they hugged not the past, but the courtesy that had brought them there. "I'll leave for a few days," Mark said, already in his coat. "I'll give you space. Anne. I hope you find what you were looking for, even if you didn't know it." "Thank you," replied Evelyn, feeling a relief that was not joy, it was truth. The door closed gently, and the sound was so light it seemed like a beginning. She stood still with the cup in her hands until the coffee grew cold. Then, she opened her phone and scrolled through the conversations. A blank line blinked before her like a lighthouse. "Can I see you?" would be too little. "I need to see you" was too much. She wrote, "If you're nearby, the lighthouse." She deleted it. Wrote again, simpler, "Cape May. Today." Sent it. Her heart, for a second, turned into a bird beating against her chest. The reply arrived with the conciseness of one who has learned to say the essential, "I'll meet you at sunset." Between the message and the road, Evelyn packed a small backpack, a change of clothes, a toothbrush, a book open halfway. She closed the window for the first time without fear of letting in too much air. In the elevator, the lights reflected her face without that shadow of resignation that had accompanied her. The city smelled of washed asphalt, the car had the temperature of a nest. The radio found a song with a female voice that didn't speak of promises, but of presence. The journey was less of an escape and more of a return. Evelyn's hands held the steering wheel as one holds an idea finally whole. At the city's edge, the clouds began to tear. Further on, the brightness displayed itself in cracks. When the Cape May sign appeared, the air brought a familiar salt, and her entire body understood it was arriving at the right place. She parked near the beach and walked toward the lighthouse, where the wind spoke with the same stubbornness as before, and the cold metal of the handrail felt like a handshake from history itself. The horizon, which had seen so many indecisive people, seemed willing to receive one more. Clara was already waiting for her, in a light coat, her hair tied up any which way, her blue eyes trying not to run ahead of her body. There was in them the sweet awkwardness of those who don't know where to put their hands and the sure precision of those who know exactly where they want to go. "I came," said Evelyn, not with the urgency of one seeking shelter, but with the sincerity of one offering a home. "I know," Clara replied, tilting her face with a smile that had salt in its corners. The rain decided to give us an intermission. They climbed the spiral staircase, step by step, their breath meeting in the metallic echo. At the top, the wind refined the words until they fit between their lips without becoming larger than they needed to be. "I ended something that no longer existed," Evelyn said, looking at the sea. "Not for you. For me. But, for you, I wanted courage." Clara took a second to respond. In that second, she leaned her body a millimeter, enough for her shoulder to lightly touch Evelyn's. "I waited as long as you needed," she replied. "And I understood that waiting is sometimes a verb for two people, me here, you there, and the lighthouse in between reminding us not to get lost." They stood side by side, the cold metal under their fingers. Evelyn turned toward Clara with the calm of one choosing where the light falls in a room. She asked with her eyes for the permission her body already understood. Clara nodded without haste, as one authorizing an old truth to exist. The first touch was not a complete gesture, it was the caress of a nose on a cheek, the pause that asks, the touching of foreheads that sews two breaths into one. When their mouths met, the kiss happened as if time had been stretched to accommodate gentleness, brief, careful, with the memory of what they had been and the care for what they would still become. There was no hunger, there was the experience of tasting water recognized as a source. The wind passed, approving. The lighthouse turned on and off, as if assenting. When they pulled apart, neither sought big explanations. There was euphoria, yes, but it was a gentle euphoria, the kind that lives where the right things find their place. "And now?" Evelyn asked, not as one who fears what comes next, but as one who accepts writing the next chapter without a fixed script. "Now we go down, eat something warm, choose a place with large windows and plant a lavender on the windowsill," said Clara, laughing. "And tomorrow we return to life, just holding hands from the inside." In the corner cafe, the smell of tomato soup and baked bread clung to their clothes like affection. They sat near the window, their knees sometimes seeking each other without fanfare. They talked about practical things, addresses, work, schedules, drawers, and, in between, let slip promises that didn't need, forever, to be serious. "I can start slowly in Brooklyn," said Evelyn. "I have clients who will stay with me. And, if there's a blank wall, I'll set up a table and draw. In my studio there's always space for someone who brings light," Clara replied. "We'll call whatever you create Dawn Rooms. It has the feel of a beginning." They returned to the red-roofed inn. The room now had the murmur of the sea as a soundtrack and an amphora light that gilded the edges of things. They moved around the bed with the delicacy of those rearranging an altar. There was no rush, there was the kind of surrender that fits in small gestures, hands exploring the new map of a shoulder, a face hidden in the curve of a neck, breath finding the rhythm the rain marked on the windowpane. When their lips sought each other again, it was like giving thanks in another language. The world outside lit its lights, inside, any brightness would have been excessive. In the middle of the night, they woke a little and stayed silent, listening to the sea as one listens to a known story narrated by another voice. "I was afraid I had arrived too late," confessed Evelyn, her mouth almost touching Clara's skin. "To me, you arrived when the lighthouse light decides to point to the right tide," Clara returned, with sweet humor. Sleep came back to claim them in parts, and, when dawn broke, the coastal city smelled of new bread and washed promises. In the weeks that followed, the transformation didn't happen with fireworks, but with switches turned on in forgotten divisions of the house. Evelyn took fewer things than she imagined to the new apartment in Brooklyn: 3 plants, 2 underlined books, her favorite mug. She donated the excess, kept the essential, learned to cook for 2 with bare feet in a hurry. When guilt came, like an echo, she received it politely: "I hear you," and let it go carefully. She called Mark on an afternoon of pale sun. They talked about practical division and possible friendship, and, at the end of the call, neither emerged smaller. "Thank you for not letting me become the villain in your story," he said. "Thank you for reminding me that every story has more than one protagonist," she returned. In Clara's studio, which now had the drawing table on the east wall, projects were born with the smell of new paint and window light. They created an editing corner where the click of mat cutters marked time. They named shelves, hung photos of the sea and of hands, left a vase of hydrangeas on the floor to remind them that beautiful things also accept living low. Sometimes, after work, they lay on a blanket on the floor to look at the ceiling and invent names for the cracks: ancient map, vein of light, good rain crack. Their laughter brought a warmth no dimmable lamp could imitate. Evelyn learned to say no without apologizing and yes without promising everything. She unlearned confusing impeccable with true. Clara unlearned making herself smaller to fit into other spaces. She learned to celebrate without ceremony the small advances: a fold of fabric that settled, an edit that breathed, a photo that needed no filter. When they argued, they did so at the volume of important things, the kind that doesn't wound, but vibrates. "I'm afraid of losing you in the middle of my urgencies," Clara admitted one night with a full schedule. "Then call me before," replied Evelyn, placing her hand over Clara's. "And if I get lost, you turn on the light and I'll come back." The symbol always returned, the photograph, as a mirror of what they felt, the rain, as a heartbeat that organizes, the sea, as a reminder of horizon, the music, as an invisible scene. One Friday, Clara enlarged the first photo of Evelyn at the lighthouse and hung it in the hallway. "To remember that we were once rescue and now we are destiny," she said. Evelyn smiled, with the same surprise as the first click. On the day the co-working contract was finalized and the name, Dawn Rooms, appeared in clean typography on the letterhead, they celebrated with soup and bread again, because old happinesses like to repeat rituals. At the end, they stood for a few minutes at the studio window, watching a drizzle that barely wet, only refined the sound of the street. "Life didn't get simpler," said Evelyn, almost laughing. "It became more mine." "And more ours," Clara completed, leaning her shoulder against Evelyn's. When Evelyn returned to Hudson Yards to get the last box, she stopped, for a moment, in the same room that opened the story. The clock could have read 6:12 again. The bed, now, was not empty, but disassembled, sheets in motion, pillows without poetry. She ran her fingers over the cold window and, instead of resting her forehead on the glass, opened the blind to let in air. The rain drew the same lines, only, this time, they didn't blur anything, they washed. In her bag, 2 toothbrushes and a saved note from Clara: "I'll meet you on the side of the light." At night, in the new apartment, Evelyn woke to the sound of fine rain hitting the windowsill, and the scene mirrored itself with another meaning: the clock on the nightstand, the window open halfway, the same city breathing, and the other side of the bed occupied, Clara lying on her back, her gentle breath drawing a possible tide. Evelyn rested her face against Clara's shoulder, felt lavender and warm skin, and closed her eyes with the serene clarity of one who has chosen. The image that began as absence was now full presence. The outside world remained the same, the one who had changed color was her. Sometimes, courage is just the patience to sustain one's own truth at the right volume. And freedom, in the end, is fitting into the life you choose with the person you decided to be. If this story touched you, subscribe to Secret Garden Stories, leave your comment, and share it with someone who needs to hear this today.